If I can give you a very quick example just to buttress that. In the military school, we had a regimental sergeant major. I hope you looked that up. It's the toughest soldier you'll find, the training guy. Very recently, 40 years after, yes, the drill master. 40 years after, what happened is that the ex-students, is the best way so that you understand it, went to find him in retirement, brought him to the school, and actually everybody who had now risen to become generals and who had become very successful wanted to take photographs with the regimental sergeant major, who there is almost no way you can pass through that school without a period where you would have received his whip. He had a horse whip that he moved around with. And there is no way you can spend 5 years without actually getting it. Yet.
It sounds like all of you have Stockholm syndrome.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But I'm sure.
Okay, I remember.
We'll come back to you.
I can add something.
Mr. Kayode.
Kayode, can you ask your question?
Yes. So the photo I was showing you, actually, I wanted to see what I looked like when I was 11.
Right.
So when that was handed to me, this was this year by another classmate who in Nigeria, he said, he's my classmate. We grew up in the same school. He said, it doesn't look like me. So I said, why? He said, because I'm always smiling. So then I reminded you of something that he forgot, that were we not all depressed in our first year when we took that? This is the first semester.
Because we left home.
Yes, we left home first semester of the first year in a military school, right? So I reminded him, were we not all depressed? That nobody was smiling at the time we took that photo, right? I think you were spot on, right? The kids.
Before you go on, Kayode, I just want to say something. Kayode is the Baba Kwata Kwata who started the school that Ron, I, and John went to. So he's the grandfather of all of us. The very, very first set.
No, I'm the third set, but she's very.
Third set. Where is the Oga Kwata Kwata that we will know?
I'm the third set, but all old people look the same. Both grandparents look like they're the same age of great grandparents, and then all of them are the same. They're all old. So I was trying to show you basically what I looked like when I was 11, how I was feeling. The state of my mind is probably captured in that photo. But then one of the things that now happened later on, when I took my own son to school in Nigeria, and I got to the class and he had weed on himself, and he wasn't doing that at home. I told the teacher, why did he wee on himself? I still remember this, and if he was here, he will actually start laughing. He's 24 now. 25 in 3 months. He started laughing because this triggers me all the time. I kind of relieve the emotions. The lady teacher basically said, oh, he's not, how did he do that? Come. That I came to pick up my son. Come forward. She opened her drawer, brought out a ruler, and spanked my son.
Right in front of you.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let me calm down. It's a long time ago. Because in my mind, I'm always like wondering how I did not lose it completely. I was quiet. I took him out there, and I basically, after that semester, he didn't go back to that school. They sent people, but here's the thing though. When I was growing up, that would be acceptable. So now that I've prevented my kids, and that's what most of my generation did with the kids, right? They prevented them from going through that, which we interpreted to be abuse. We interpreted it to be abuse. We interpreted it to be trauma. But you see, if you prevent a child from experiencing the trauma early on, you can't now put the same kind of pressure that you had on him. He's not been built for that.
Yeah.
So part of the problem that we created is that we made them skip the initial formation of being able to absorb trauma.
That coping mechanism.
Yes. Yeah. Of being able to, because I got this before I went to this school. my own case is a little okay. My case is funny because I came to the US as a 3-month-old baby. Went back to Nigeria at 4.5. So I was speaking Fune. Then suddenly my life turned around. I was getting the slippers every day. Every day I did something wrong, and my mother was very impatient. Right? So I got the slippers every day till I went to military school. Well, in hindsight, that actually is what prepared me, that allowed me to go in there and, because I'm not, at least at the end of the day, I came out of that and I can interpret my experiences differently. There are some other people who went to the same school who are still not normal, right? That's just who they are.
Are we still on
I have a question,
they
though.
beat me, but it helped me?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Are you
No,
saying that kids
I know.
should
Exactly.
experience trauma?
Wait. Let Candy ask. Wait, hold on. Let Candy ask.
What I'm saying, let me just clarify that. I'm saying that the trauma that I started to experience early on allowed me develop, in quotes, the coping mechanism. I'm not trying to say, and I'm also telling you, I also started by telling you that I didn't allow my son to go through it because as an adult, as a parent, I interpret it now to be, it's traumatic for me. And that's why I was saying, even my son will laugh at me because I kind of relieve the emotions of it. So I'm not trying to say that I support it in any way. I'm just telling you that my own experiences and how it basically allowed me form some coping mechanism. I believe I have come to realize that there are better ways to basically raise a kid over time. In fact, even my younger son came recently and so said that he said something like basically they are lucky that I and his mom are forgetting the exact words, but basically he feels that we're ahead of the curve because I guess when they compare stories, I don't sound, or he realizes I'm not the type that puts pressure on a kid to do things. But then the thing they forget is that I still have a military background. Somewhere along the line, basically, I kind of adapted. So I'm not trying to basically excuse that. I'm trying to connect the dots because it's tough for me to hearing the stuff I've been hearing. But one other thing I noticed, right? This is just me noticing as a layman. A lot of the kids who are exceptionally brilliant when I was young seem to have an overactive mind as an adult where they needed a little bit of help later on. It's never all right? So it's never all. But I noticed that a lot of there's some people that got double promotion. They were just too smart. Elementary school, right? Now these people graduated top of the class, after the double promotion. But now that we're much older and then we can talk, and mental health is no longer a thing that everybody is hiding. You now realize that they need a little bit of help in terms of therapy, in terms of, So in my mind, I'm wondering, again, this is just, I'm wondering, I'm not a medical person. I'm wondering if that initial extreme ability to very quickly grasp things ahead of the rest of your peers, if and this is where I describe it, if the blessing also has a curse. Because what I realized for most people,
they just don't have, what we say when we say that some people are not streetwise, they don't have social intelligence.
So what I've realized over time is that
everything that they do is about their education, academia, and all of that.
Yes.
And they close their mind to the social things. It's the social things that help you to balance.
But my conclusion in it all is that the blessing also has a curse. And what I mean by that is that I have interacted with people who basically came out with the first class. And there was one person who told me that when she's at home preparing to go to university, when other parents are telling their kids to study, her mother would tell her, do not study to the point where you become sick. Because she is the exact opposite. I experienced her decide that she will come out with the first class no matter what it will cost. She made the first class, right? But I saw her go to the extreme in terms of I have to make the right grades. So I totally...
Sorry, There's
Can't
a
hear you, Ron.
question for you. No, there's a question.
Yeah, I see there. I'll answer it. You say somebody
For
says that, please,
Kayode on the
that am I
screen.
saying that discipline given by my parents was traumatic? That's a very good question. Okay, let me put this way. At the time when I received it, it was traumatic. At the time when I received it, it was traumatic. Now that I'm also a parent, I realized that they were acting based on the best information they had at that point in time. So my interpretation of it, for the person who asked the question, my interpretation of it is actually what really matters. Because some people who still, some people who are still classifying it as traumatic have problems dealing with that.
Yeah.
If I can give you a very quick example just to buttress that. In the military school, we had a regimental sergeant major. I hope you looked that up. It's the toughest soldier you'll find, the training guy. Very recently, 40 years after, yes, the drill master. 40 years after, what happened is that the ex-students, is the best way so that you understand it, went to find him in retirement, brought him to the school, and actually everybody who had now risen to become generals and who had become very successful wanted to take photographs with the regimental sergeant major, who there is almost no way you can pass through that school without a period where you would have received his whip. He had a horse whip that he moved around with. And there is no way you can spend 5 years without actually getting it. Yet.
It sounds like all of you have Stockholm syndrome.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, and the syndrome, see, if you describe it as a syndrome, the syndrome actually is so huge, right, that everybody now loves this guy, and we're actually, basically in retirement, we're buying him a car. Yes. Now, hold on. Let me flip that. There are certain names that you will mention that I will log off because I knew I received their whip, but they were wicked. There is a difference. I can tell the difference between the person who
a whip in love and a whip out of wickedness.
Yes. Yeah. So for the person who asked me if it was traumatic, that's what I'm talking about. I know the state of your mind when that whip touches me. That's how I describe what is traumatic as opposed to what is discipline.
Correctional.
Yeah, correctional. So for the person who asked that question, I hope that takes care of that question. Then the last question, the question I actually had was when we talk of depression, right? So earlier on, Bumi, I was feeling when Ron said I should log in, I was like, this is heavy for me. I don't know if I can come on board, but I was listening to everything. But then I have one question. When they put people on serotonin, which is to help, because what I've learned about is that people don't produce enough, right? Yeah. Some do not produce enough, so they can't basically become happy again when they become sad. It's not, it's automatic for some, it's not automatic for some. In my own, when I explain this to people, I say people wear glasses. Some people need glasses to see clearly. Does not mean they're not seeing, but they need glasses. So every organ in the body, everybody needs some form of augmentation, right? Doesn't mean that the thing it doesn't mean that's broken down completely, but you need some augmentation so that it becomes normal like every other person. So in my mind, I'm wondering, right, that the organ that produces the serotonin, it's not going to produce the same for everybody, which means that there are some people who will always need the augmentation. For them to produce enough.
I don't think, and we can ask the experts, the medical people, but I don't think that's how it works. And it's not just serotonin, it's dopamine, but it's naturally produced by things like accomplishing your goals, being around people you love, being hugged. It's naturally produced. And when
there's a physical organ that produces it.
Thing, like if you eat well and you exercise, you'll be fine. No, there's certain times in your life where you may not be able to do anything about your environment.
So what I learned,
you naturally get the good feeling hormones. But I don't know.
What I learned, Bumi,
maybe can speak to that?
What I learned and I read about, because see, mental health is like a passion of mine. Every extra book I read is about psychology, mental health. What I've seen some books again. I've seen some books where exercise, even actually not just
Yes.
that. We're talking of even people. I'll
Those
just
are
say
endorphins. They're like 4 different types of chemicals that
yes.
make you
So
happy. And they're produced but from different things.
yes, but exercise actually increases the production for some people.
Endorphins.
Yes, which is part of the happy chemicals.
Yeah.
Actually,
Okay, can we ask Greatness? Greatness, can you please maybe expand on this so that these are people who have the invited Greatness. Let's let her talk.
Yes, please. My theory is this, right? That if there is an organ responsible for producing when it has been stimulated, just like your eyes, you want to see, you are stimulating the eyes to look far or to look near. For some people, it will not see the near or it will not see the far, right? I'm eating normally like every other person. They are telling me that I have high blood pressure. Meanwhile, I did eat more salt than some other people ate. But me, I cannot eat. I'm not allowed to eat as much salt, right? I'm eating normally like every other person. They're telling me I have high cholesterol. I'm saying I'm exercising.
Or diabetes.
The doctor says I still need to basically take the meds. Why is my own organ not responding like every other person's own? I've come to accept that
I think I know what you mean, but that's clinical depression when it is an actual chemical imbalance.
So exactly. So I can't describe all. I'm just asking that is it possible that some people just do not produce enough and need the augmentation?
That's clinical depression.
Absolutely, yeah.
They will always be predisposed to be depressed.
Yeah.
Because they're not generating. No, you're absolutely spot on about that.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to bring up.